Hey there! It's 90 degrees in my house. I'm dying. I'm gonna get right to the point. This is going to cover pentatonic scales. It's going to cover major pentatonic and minor pentatonic scales, which are very cool. And they're going to lead to something that is much more interesting and a lot more fun in just a couple more lessons after this. So this is kind of key to get under your belt so that you can progress into something that is like so much cooler. I can't wait to show you. So let's get going on pentatonic scales. Okay, so my first lesson went over C major, the C major scale. So you got. So let's write down the C major scale. Okay. Now there's only 7 notes in a major scale. That 8th note is there just so you can understand how it repeats and understand the interval between the 7th and then when it repeats and goes to the 8th note or the octave. So let's number these notes here. So we'll say that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So if you ignore that, you've got the 7 notes in the major scale. So what I'm going to show you first is a major pentatonic scale. And in this case, we're going to discuss C major pentatonic. It's called C major pentatonic because it is based on the C major scale. And the pentatonic part is telling you that the scale itself has 5 notes instead of 7. Penta would be like pentagon. A pentagon has 5 sides. What we're going to do, and this is super simple once you know how to put together a major scale. For a pentatonic scale, you get rid of the 4th interval, and you get rid of the 7th. And if you ignore that note, because that's the same as that, you've got a 5-note scale. And I'll show you what it sounds like. So you can use this to solo over anything that you're playing on the left hand in C major. You can interchange this scale with the major scale whenever you feel like it when you're improvising. So if you feel like playing this scale, you can play this for a while, and then you can slip it a little bit into major by throwing in the 4th and the 7th. You can go back and forth, and really this scale gives you more of like a technique. It just gives you something you can use to help you solo. Pentatonic scales are used a lot in modern music. Pentatonic scales are a naturally occurring scale, I guess. I don't know how you'd say it, but in a lot of Chinese music, and you can hear it has a sound that sounds like it would be from Chinese music. By leaving out those notes, it just gives the scale a different character than if you were to play the entire major scale. This scale also is an important basis of another scale that I play much more often, and I think it's extremely cool, and I'm going to show you that in the future, but you need to know it in order to progress onto what's to come very soon. So that's the C major pentatonic. You can improvise, just do any chord progression with your left hand. Let's say we'll do a C major, E minor, D minor, G major, and I'll try the pentatonic scale over that. you an idea how it sounds. So I would just recommend experimenting with it. Just really listen to how it sounds, play around with it. When you get a little bored with it, slip back into playing C major when you're soloing, and then go back to it. It's pretty cool. So that's the major pentatonic. Now, if you go back and look at my first two lessons, the first lesson was on the C major scale. The second lesson was on the A minor scale. And I showed you that those two scales have a relationship. All the notes that are in C major are also in A minor, and they're all the white keys on the piano. So with a major scale, you're focusing, in this case, because we're doing C major, you're focusing on that C as the tonic of the scale, as the root note. So that's what's making it be C major as opposed to A minor. When you play A minor, you're playing the exact same notes, and you're just focusing on A as the root note. So you have a tendency to start on A. So if you go back, watch my first and second lessons in this playlist, and you'll get a good idea of exactly what I'm talking about. So if you keep in mind that A minor is the relative minor scale, it's relative to C major. I'm going to write A minor right below this. So it's the same notes. So you got A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and then it repeats when you hit the A. So you've got A minor there. And just like you have a pentatonic scale in C major, there's also a minor pentatonic scale. Let's number these notes here. Okay, so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So this here is A minor. So far, this is just the A minor scale. We can create the A minor pentatonic scale by removing some notes, just like we did with C major pentatonic. Now, what's very cool about this is just like A minor has a relationship to C major, it's the relative minor scale for C major. A minor pentatonic has that same relationship to C major pentatonic. So you're removing the same notes. So we're going to get rid of the F, and we're going to get rid of the B. And then we'll get rid of that octave because you don't need that for this purpose, okay? So that gives you the A minor pentatonic scale. It's the exact same notes as C major pentatonic. It has a different sound because you're going to be focusing on the A, just like you would if it was A minor. So I'll show you how that sounds. Play an A minor chord on my left hand, and I don't play these scales very often. I play some scales that are based off of these that I mentioned before that I'm going to show you very soon, and those are really exciting, so I hope you come back and check those out. So same thing with C major. You can improvise, play a chord progression on your left hand, and just experiment like I was just doing. else that's pretty interesting about this, take a look at the piano and look at the black keys, okay? The black keys are pretty neat. When I discovered this, I thought it was pretty amazing. You know, I wasn't the first person to discover this, but when I found it out, I was really surprised. I thought it was pretty cool. So if you look at the keyboard, you look at the black keys, notice that if you were to start, let's say you're going to start here on the G flat, before you repeat and get to the octave up here to the next G flat, count the black keys. You got 5 keys, and they are actually a pentatonic scale. So starting with G flat, if you play all 5 black keys in order, that's G flat major pentatonic. And one thing I like to play in that is Amazing Grace. Let's see if I remember it. Oh, okay, here we go. All those notes in Amazing Grace, when I'm playing it in the G flat major pentatonic, all of those notes on my right hand, they're all in that scale. They're all in the major pentatonic scale, so it's pretty cool. Now, in the same token, if you start here, you've got E flat, and if you play all of the black keys, you're playing E flat minor pentatonic. And I can show you what that sounds like here. I don't play in this very often, but let's see what it sounds like. One thing that's kind of cool is if you're playing in either G flat major pentatonic or E flat minor pentatonic, you can do glissandos on the black keys just like you would if you were playing C major on the white keys, and it sounds pretty cool. Okay, so if you want to be able to play pentatonic scales in other keys other than C major and A minor, you're just going to follow this same pattern here. So let's write this down here, 1, 2, 3, 5, 6 for major pentatonic. We'll write it up here in the corner. 1, 2, 3, 5, 6. And I'll just put major. And for minor pentatonic, you've got 1, 3, 4, 5, 7. Okay, let's do this with another scale, just for fun. All right, let's do it with, we'll do it with G major. So first, you have to figure out the G major scale. If you go back and look at my first video in this playlist, you can figure out how to do that. But I'm just going to write down all the notes between G and A. So let's see, we've got G, A, B, C, D, E, F, and then we'll write the 8th, G. Now in G major, the F here is sharp. Okay, so now we number all of these notes. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. That's G major. Okay, and to make it pentatonic, we're going to get rid of the 4, and we're going to get rid of the 7. And that's it. And you can see how it's just an extension of the major scale. And actually, I guess more than an extension, it's sort of, I guess, like a reduction, because you're removing notes. You're not really extending it by adding anything. You're just taking things away. You're actually making it simpler. Okay, so there's G major pentatonic. If you want to hear what that sounds like. Now, we're going to write the relative minor scale to G major, which is E minor. Okay, so we're going to write all the notes, starting with E, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E. Okay, and we'll number them. And also remember this is sharp. Okay, so that is E minor. And now we'll make pentatonic out of it. Okay, so what we're going to do is you could try to remember these patterns for both major and minor, remember these numbers, but actually if you just remember the first one, the pattern for major, just remember that you're dropping out the 4 and the 7, and then when you derive your minor scale and you know its relationship to its relative major scale, then all you got to do is just remove the same notes. So we're gonna, if we do it that way, we're gonna remove the C, and we're gonna remove the F sharp, and that just also happens to be the same pattern you have there, 1, 3, 4, 5, 7. I prefer to remember as little information as I need to because it's just easier. So it's easier to just remember the relationship between the minor and major scales and remember that. Then you're only having to remember half as much information. If you try to remember the pattern for a major scale and the pattern for a minor scale, and then remember the pattern for major pentatonic and minor pentatonic, you're starting to force yourself to remember a lot more information than you really need to. You can figure this out at any time, and you don't even need to know that pattern there. You just need to know the major one. Okay, so now this is going to give you E minor pentatonic. I don't play in pentatonic very often, so this might not be spectacular, but let's see how it works. Okay, so let's see. With the E. So that's E minor pentatonic. You can do this with any scale, and it just follows the same rule. So that's it for today. If you have any questions or any feedback, please comment on this video. I'd really appreciate it. I'll help you out however I can. I want to thank you for watching my videos. My channel's growing. I just hit 50,000 views, and we hit 50 subscribers last week. So I'm real happy about that. I have been trying to keep my channel interesting, and I'm not only going to do lessons. Here and there I'm going to do some original songs. I posted a couple recently, and if you haven't seen them, please check them out. Hopefully you'll find them funny. Just gives me something to do. I like coming up with songs, and so I'm going to be doing some more of that too. And that's it. Have a good one, and thanks for watching. of views. I'm gonna dress like Papa Smurf and drink milk from an old dirty shoe. We're gonna break the internet, we're gonna bring it right down. I'm gonna